ST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at Lightbridge Health Sports Medicine Institute of Foundry Row in Owings Mills. Let the pros take great care of you. You see Cal Ripken up on the billboards. Hear him here at WNST. And, of course, the doctors who join us each and every week. And I mentioned Cal Ripken. Takes me back to baseball. It's almost baseball season here. And a football awful sex trafficking story about Chinese slavery and prostitution in Florida and Robert Kraft last week has quickly led me back to a baseball person who was a real driving force and a friend to me when not everyone here was a friend to me during that era 25 years ago. He is now doing some incredible work. And the last time we caught up, I think Kevin Malone was doing something with car dealerships in Los Angeles, California, after running the Dodgers and, of course, after being a part of the Orioles and the Montreal Expos. We welcome Kevin Malone. Dare I call you, Kevin, baseball executive or former baseball executive. I know of your deep conviction and religion, and I've known that, and your passion for the work of your creator, but the world has taken you on a different path, and Tom Lavero found you over the weekend, and I said, I've got to get in touch with Kevin Malone and wonder what happened to him. You're doing some incredible work out in Las Vegas, and I'm here to tell my audience, we'll catch up on baseball and old times and all that, but you're doing some really serious stuff, and this Robert Kraft story has put you in the news and had people like me reaching out to you to tell the story, right?
Yeah, Nestor, it's good to hear your voice, and I miss Baltimore, miss you and Lovey, and we had some great times there, some great Orioles teams while I was there, and I'm thankful for the opportunity of spending 3+ years of my life in Baltimore. And as you mentioned, moved on to the Dodgers from there, but it takes us up to where we're at now. And for the last 4 years, Nestor, I've been full-time with all my heart, with all my soul and my passion fighting child sex trafficking, primarily in America. I do some work internationally, but I believe God has called me to focus on protecting American children from being bought and sold for sex all across this country. So about 3 years ago, I started the United States Institute Against Human Trafficking. My partner, Jeff Rogers, is a former VP at IBM, and God laid it on our hearts to start this organization so that we could not only, prevent kids from getting caught up into this in America, but also intervene and we do some rescues, and we also opened the first trafficked boys safe home in all of America, and that's down in Central Florida. Because, Nestor, the numbers are staggering. I know you're a baseball guy and you like statistics and all, but what we have found over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years is that about 100,000, I'm going to say tens of thousands to be completely accurate, American boys and girls are sold for sex every day in America. And 10 to 15% of that 100,000 are boys, which most people don't ever think about or know about. And what we also find is that foster care is broken around America. In every state, it's really bad. We need to improve and fix our foster care because 60% of all trafficked kids in America are coming out of foster care. So they're sought out after there, they're lured there, they're abducted there, and then they're groomed there, and then they're put on the streets. They're sold online. They're sold on the streets. So we've got a huge problem with men in America purchasing sex from kids, and that's my focus, is to stop it and help the kids that got caught up into it, and then provide them restoration. So that's what God's called me to do, and I'm doing my best to try to make that happen.
Kevin Malone here, former executive with the Baltimore Orioles in Major League Baseball, and I was in the car business for a little while. Last time we caught up, maybe about a decade ago, I was working on people like you who were in leadership positions in Baltimore sports. And we talked a little bit about Barry Trotz, and I know you're out in Vegas, and I know you got some Golden Knights hockey fever out there because you got some sports blood in you as well. And, just over the course of time, how many people have gone on to do things and other things? And I know Frank Robbins Robinson, who was a contemporary of yours, passed away a few weeks ago. The Orioles are now honoring him with his number, and we've looked at his life and what it represented, and going back to Jackie Robinson and baseball and all these things that you come out of. But boy, you've moved on to out of the toy department, dare I say, picking baseball players from Montreal to Baltimore to L.A. How did this happen for you? As I said, I've always known about your religious conviction, and you've always worn that, and some folks in baseball didn't like that so much, and I didn't think you cared too much what they liked or didn't like. You were who you were, and I am who, and I don't know why 30 years later we're still doing this, but certainly you've been called to a bigger cause. When did this find its way to you? Because I think the Bob Kraft story is going to have people like me at 50 that have passed these places and neighborhoods and places all over the world and never thought of it as anything other than it's prostitution. It's a woman getting money for man. It's the oldest that we know about in society. And amongst two people, I'm pretty libertarian from a political standpoint to say, hey, what you do in your privacy, I don't have any problem with. And I've always looked at it that way. I will never look at it that way again. And I don't think the Bob Kraft story has been an eye-opener for a lot of people I know. And I think it's been brought out in sports media and popular media and the regular media this week when other things are going on in Hanoi, other things are going on in Washington. And I know our news cycle makes these things come and go, but the Bob Kraft story is here to stay, and I think that the folks got out on the front of that and said, this isn't a prostitution story, this is a child slavery, human trafficking story, which has led me to you, and I know you come at it from a different way here in America, but boy, this is going on all over the world, huh?
Yeah, this is going on all over the world. I think, just to refer to that is in 2009, Nestor, I went with my pastor, Francis Chan, over to Thailand. We went over with Children's Hunger Fund, which feeds kids in third world countries all over the world. And we also went with Zoe International. Zoe International is a anti-human trafficking organization located in Chiang Mai in northern Thailand. When I was there in 2009, they have a safe home for kids that have been trafficked, 50 to 60 to 80 kids. And I spent time with kids that had been sold as sex slaves, and I met a 5-year-old little boy that had been sold as a sex slave, and it broke my heart. And I pray all the time, Nestor, God, break my heart for what breaks yours and let me be a difference maker. So I came back in 2009. I was living in L.A. At that time, I owned a Mercedes-Benz dealership with Eddie Murray, was one of the owners, a former Oriole great.
Who has been brought back, by the way. Eddie is, very visible here once again.
I'm glad that he is. I believe that he's got a lot to offer. The fans love him. He loves people, and I think he can be a difference maker for the Orioles. So hopefully they'll utilize. He's got a lot of knowledge, and hopefully they can utilize his skills and his experiences. But so when I got back, Victor, Nestor, I started really thinking and looking and researching and vetting what is the human trafficking problem in America. If it's going on all over the world, do we have a problem in America? Well, I found out that we did have a problem. This was 10 years ago. To the magnitude of now, no, it was below the radar screen. And in many ways, it still is below the radar screen. So I started getting involved and really found out in Los Angeles is where I started that we had a huge problem, that kids were being bought and sold. There were traffickers, pimps, and then there were women being what we call TAYs, transitional age youth, women from 18 to 24, formerly trafficked as minors. That's called CSEC, commercially sexually exploited children that were now being sold as adults. So I think the Robert Kraft story is very interesting, Nestor. It's not a one-off, bad guy situation. Robert Kraft is not an outlier. This is the tip of the iceberg. Buyers come from all walks of life. We've got NFL owners. You have teachers, you have lawyers, coaches, doctors. Men from all walks of life are purchasing sex. And as you mentioned a minute ago, they walk into a massage parlor or to some kind of a dance club with rooms in the back. They don't know if these women are in these clubs or in these massage parlors are being held there against their will. Most times they're not willing participants. And I think your eyes were open, and I think America's eyes are being open, that these were Chinese ladies that were being held against their will. And I can tell you this, around the country, we deal with adults and children that have been sold as sex slaves. 90% of the women that are in this, they don't want to be in this. They want to get out, but they don't have the job skills. They don't have training, education. So they stay in it because that's what they know. And it's almost like they're victims of society. They don't have any options. They might not, some of these women in these massage parlors or these dance clubs or these strip clubs maybe don't have a pimp, but some of them are there because society has limited their options, and they're victims of a society that doesn't care. So this is a huge problem in America, Nestor. It's not a joke. It's not a laughing matter, and I think we need to really address it. And you know, with Robert Kraft, it's sad to say, but here's an example of the wealthy exploiting the weak. This is not a victimless crime. Your listeners should know this is not a victimless crime.
Kevin Malone is here, former Orioles assistant general manager, and of course, I ran the Dodgers for a while now, doing some incredible work. I will direct you to the website, is USIHT. That's U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking. There's a whole page up here about Kevin's work and the work that he's doing there, and shedding light on all of this. You know, I also it's opened my eyes about a lot of things, and my Baltimore Positive movement, the things that I'm launching here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be taking serious looks at lots of stuff that I'm learning as a 50-year-old that I never would have known as a 25-year-old. But part of this also, not even on the sexual side, but nail salons, different places where immigrants can be brought in and their passports can be held by someone that is a slave master. That's different than prostitution. It's different than but it's still one of those things that is sort of chilling to say, are these people here against their will? Are they in some sort of a slavery situation that may or may not be sexual, that's very, very overt when you open your eyes and peel back our society a little bit? And I think it has me scratching my head, and it has me talking to people like you that probably encounter things that we just would not think of and that you did not think of when you were busy trying to pick baseball players for the Dodgers 20 years ago, right?
That's correct, Nestor. I think you nailed it. Not only is there an issue with sex trafficking, but labor trafficking, which you pointed out to. We have men and women, boys and girls being forced to work on factory lines, in restaurants, and all out in the farms and around the country. It's forced labor. I think the definition of human trafficking is when a person is forced, coerced, or frauded into doing something against their will. So they're basically enslaved, and it is modern day slavery. And it's not only happening in the sex trafficking world, which is where I'm focused because I'm trying to protect kids from this awful evil, but it's happening in all walks of life and in all industries. So I think that was a very good point you made, that it's happening all around us. It's like it's happening right in front of us, and oftentimes we don't see it. So I really appreciate you kind of, calling it to our attention and your listeners, and people need to be on the aware. People are being, frauded and coerced into doing things against their will all around this country. So thank you for pointing that out.
In your case, you go to Thailand, you come back, you're selling cars, you and Eddie Murray, you're a baseball executive, transitioning to a different place in your world because I guess at some point you sort of decided where I am with baseball, whereas I don't need it anymore. I did it, been there, done that. I want to do something else. I want to make some other contribution or be involved. You come back, give me the step from where you made a little bit of money yourself. You're connected with some people with some means. You had a good spirit and obviously a godly soul about you. How does that translate, that moment to say, all right, I need a website, I need an office, I need a staff, but where does the government come in to have oversight on you, or you over the I almost think of it a little bit as, what's that crazy, the guy that goes out and finds criminals and brings them to justice, You know what I'm saying? And I feel like you're a little bit of that, but where do you work in conjunction with the government and the FBI and local
great
authorities?
question.
Because, I mean, you're in Las Vegas. Kevin, I've been to Las Vegas, and there anything go. When I get there, I feel like you can get anything you want here if you want it. That where it comes from and whether tourist John's going to go to jail for it or whatever, that if I stay within the bounds of whatever the local etiquette is, when they're handing me sex cards out on the street with naked women and there's numbers. I mean, that goes on. That's gone on every single time I've gone to Las Vegas. I don't know who these girls are, but they look American or Eastern European, and they look grown up. In many cases, they look very grown up, and it looks like it's a very sort of something that the guy an hour out of town was doing down at the Bunny Ranch and something adults have been doing on. But I would think in Las Vegas, I can't imagine how taxed the drugs, the vice, the sex, the prostitution, the crime, the pickpockets, the guns, what happened, the incredible thing that happened in Mandalay Bay that I still can't get my arms around, that all the things that go on in Vegas. You now go to Vegas to do this, right? Because that's where you want to be.
That's where God called me, Nestor, to be, because this is the darkest of darks here. This is a culture here that says what happens here stays here. I've met with the district attorney, Stephen Wolfson. I've met with Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who I really like. And I said, hey, this reputation for Vegas is fine, but what happens in Vegas isn't going to stay in Vegas if it involves children being bought and sold for sex. I'm coming here as a new sheriff in town, tongue-in-cheek, to make a difference, to wake people up, to say it's not okay for kids to be purchased for sex. So there's a huge problem in Vegas because of the attitude. Like you said, anything goes. Come here, do what you want. It's all okay. Well, it's not okay. It's not okay that that kids and some women. I just was informed about a lady that lives up in Reno, up in northern Nevada. Everyone's talking about legalized prostitution. I'm definitely against that because I think it would make the problem worse. But she said she was trafficked on the Strip. She was trafficked in these so-called legalized house to prostitution. But what many people don't know is prostitution is not legal in Las Vegas, in Clark County, Nevada, right here where we're at on the Strip. It's way out in a couple of counties, way outside of Las Vegas. So there is a mentality here that you can do whatever you want. I don't think that makes it right. You said earlier it's the oldest profession. Okay, so does that make it right? Because I believe that majority of women that are doing that, or so-called selling them, that want to do that, I don't believe they really want to do it. I believe they're forced to do it from circumstances or somebody in their life that's making them do it. So, and it's a deeper problem than we can imagine. I moved here to do that, and as you mentioned, my son jumped on the Golden Knights bandwagon before the season started. I had to wait. It's been great. I think what my wife said, Nestor, was, now people think there's a lot more going on in Vegas than just the Strip. You've got the Golden Knights. You've got the Raiders that are coming. You've got a AAA baseball team. They're talking about bringing a Major League Baseball team here. So Las Vegas isn't just the Strip. There's a great number of communities surrounding. I live in Henderson, which is just south of the airport. There's Summerlin. There's a lot of great communities in the Las Vegas area. It's normal. It's not connected. I don't go to the Strip unless friends are here. Go down. Unless there's something particular to go down, because Las Vegas and the surrounding suburbs, the communities have everything you want to offer. So, but I'm here to fight this. I just want to bring light to the darkness, and this isn't okay. Robert Kraft, I appreciate what he's done. He's kind of opened Pandora's box. And
he really has. And that's why we're on the phone right now. I wouldn't have known what you were doing, and a week, a month, a year later, had this not happened. And I don't know what the justice for him is going to be, and the shame. I mean, it sounds like he just jumped on a plane and went out to the Oscars over the weekend. My wife and I see him every year at the owners' meetings. I guess he'll be at the Biltmore in 5 weeks. And Kevin, you've run in that circle with baseball and owners, and
yes.
And entitlement and players and girls running around the lobbies of the hotels around the players. years, and you trying to police that when you're running a baseball team and trying to win 100 games during the year. So, that's always going to be a part of it. But in Las Vegas for you and being there and you're calling, tell me what a day looks like for you there. I can't imagine there's not a day when something horrible and unspeakable is not going on in Las Vegas, Nevada, right?
Well, as you know, Nestor, you have to build a foundation. You just can't come in here and create more havoc. You've got to have a strategic plan. So we actually moved here a year ago yesterday. I brought my family here. We moved here to do this. So I've started building relationships. So you meet with the district attorney. You meet with the other prosecutors in town, trying to understand how the system works. You meet with Sheriff Lombardo, then you meet with, one of his captains or with the lieutenant or with a sergeant that is involved in human trafficking. You try to find out how are they approaching this, how big do they think the problem is. And the one thing I've learned out, Nestor, I've learned is that law enforcement can't arrest their way out of this problem. That's just one component of it. But everyone in the community has to do, what they can do. With our United States Institute Against Human Trafficking, we developed this trafficking-free zone where you go into a county, into a city, and you get everyone to buy in. You get law enforcement, you get politicians, you get the business community, you get the churches, you get the schools, you get the medical, the hospitals and all the doctors, and everyone learns about it, and everyone becomes aware about it. Everyone knows what to look for. And then we implement 2 or 3 or 4 things, practical things that a particular industry or group of people can do to create awareness and to drive this out and to stop this, eradicate this in their own communities. To me, that's what we're going to have to do. You had asked earlier about how we work with politicians. I spoke at major cities, district attorneys had a meeting in Milwaukee last year. I met Ural's district attorney there in Baltimore, and she's got a lot of interest in she's got a lot on her plate. And
everybody in Baltimore, I guess that's my point. We got a lot on our plate here. I imagine they do in Vegas too. And there's a lot more vice going on there, a lot more money floating around, a lot of things going on in every municipality.
Nestor, what you got to do, and you talked about it, and I think you're realizing this now. And what we realized 2 years ago is we've got to get involved to some degree in politics. In other words, we spend time on Capitol Hill maybe 4 or 5 days every other month. We're meeting with U.S. congressmen and congress-ladies. We're meeting with senators. We're meeting with people in the government at the federal level. We're trying to get laws changed. We worked on a FOSTA-SESTA bill last year. It got President Trump signed it. It was passed by the House and the Senate. It basically closed down the online sales of people for sex. It was illegal. There was a legal loophole. So we worked on that with a lot of people around the country. So you've got to approach this from a law policy kind of perspective and get laws fixed or amended or new ones created that protect people from this happening. We do a lot of work in Florida with the legislators there, the Attorney General there, the former Attorney General Pam Bondi we're working with. Around the country. We're working with the new Attorney General in Florida. Her name is Ashley Moody. We're just trying to make people aware. Nestor, I got to say, the first time we started going into D.C. meeting with senators and Congress members, they knew about this problem, but they thought it was all overseas. They thought it was all happening only, in India or Thailand or the Philippines. But what we're trying to do is hey, it's happening in your own states, in your own cities, in your own backyards. People are being bought and sold for sex. People are possibly being labor trafficked. It's not an international problem. It's an American problem. We have a pandemic problem all across this country with people being bought and sold for sex and people being forced to do various types of labor, activities in the workforce. So, we're working at the federal, the state, and the local level. So here in Nevada, I'm preparing in the next month or so to go up. There's a new governor here. His name is Steve Sisolak. I've already met with him about the problem of kids being sold primarily in Las Vegas for sex. I'm trying to meet with the city council members from Clark County here, which is where Las Vegas is located. So you've got to approach this, Nestor, from multifaceted angles. You've got to approach it in every possible way. You got to get into the schools, and there's bullying going on, but a part of bullying we see now is that kids are being kind of manipulated, lured into this out of schools. So we've got to do trainings. We've got to inform our kids what to look for. We've got to train teachers what to look for. So everyone in all these communities across the country need to get involved because predators are out there. We believe that, 500,000 to 1 million times a day in America, men are paying to have sex with kids. I mean, the numbers are staggering. No one wants to acknowledge it. No one wants to talk about it. Everyone's got their head in the sand. But, what you said, William Wilberforce made a great statement. It kind of goes along with what you said. You may choose to look the other way regarding sex trafficking, and I'm adding sex trafficking, but you can never say again that you did not know. Once you know, you can look the other way, but once you know, and you should do something about it. So that's what I'm trying to do here in Vegas. It's an uphill battle, but I work with juvenile justice here. There's a judge here by the name of Judge Boyd. They have a specific court for children that have been trafficked. They're arrested sometimes as prostitutes. There is no such thing, Nestor, as child prostitutes. You can't consent to sex until you're 18. At 17 and under, you can't consent. So there is no prostitution for children. You are being sexually trafficked. So a lot of this is education. A lot of this is awareness. And then there's a call to action. And people can get involved. As you said, people can go to our website or call our office. Our headquarters are in Tampa. And it's the United States Institute Against Human Trafficking, USIAHT.org. And we will help you get involved in your community and make a difference because we need people to do what they can do because this is a growing problem. And I'm worried about the future for our kids. If we can't protect our kids, what else is there? So I appreciate your interest, Nestor, in letting people know.
Well, the Bob Kraft thing, I think it's caused people in my circle certainly to scratch their head, and not just about the dirty old man thing or just about, his wife dying or how much money or, whether you would do it or wouldn't do it or would want. All of those kind of conversations. The bigger conversation right away was about trafficking and how the sting went down and the FBI got involved. Kevin Malone is here. He is familiar to me and familiar to you. He was very instrumental at a very tender point in the history of Oriole baseball back in the mid-1990s in Montreal and then on to the Los Angeles Dodgers, is now fighting human trafficking full-time in Las Vegas, Nevada, and USIAHT. And last thing for you, on maybe a little bit of a lighter note, sounds like you don't miss baseball at all, right? I mean...
well, I miss some of the people, Nestor. There's some great people in the game. As you know, you were in it, Tom Lavero. I mean, there's so many amazing people in it, players, front office executives, coaches. I miss the people. I miss the competition, but what I have found is God's kind of rechanneled my focus, my passion, and my competitive spirit to go after the eradication of sex trafficking of minors. And Nestor, I got to tell you that, people need to be aware also. I mean, we now are working with some cyber folks and technology. We have intercept bots. We have phone scraping devices, and we have these what we call web crawlers. If you call into a website or if you are online, there's ways to get your information, and what we do is we turn it over to law enforcement, or we give you a chance to stop doing that, to stop purchasing sex from minors or whatever you're doing that is illegal. And we also offer a way out. We believe that 50% of all men that purchase sex want to stop, but they don't know how. So on our website, we will lead people. We will help men that want to stop this. We're not sitting in judgment. We're not going to bring any shame. We will help men that want to stop, that are addicted or regular participants of this, to stop. So not only are we going after the demand, Nestor, I think the biggest thing that I hope people hear today on this from us talking is it's a demand. This is a supply answer to a demand problem. So sex trafficking is a supply answer to a demand. If men didn't demand this, then there would be no need for supply. There would be no need for women, boys, and girls, to be sold as sex slaves. So we need to tell men that it's not okay to do this. I don't care what people say, and they joke about it. It's not okay because most of the people are unwilling participants on the receiving end, and we need to protect our women and our boys and girls.
And by the way, you have a D.C. office, too. I want to point that out down on K Street. It is U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking. Kev, thanks for making time and shedding some light on this. And when I saw Tom Lavero's piece, I said, I got to get Kevin on. And I know we didn't do a ton of baseball in here or old storytelling, but there's a little Eddie Murray, a little Frank Robinson in there, but we had a bigger message today, you know?
Let's do that, Nestor, once the season starts. Let's talk about, some baseball stories. And if you get back out here, if the Capitals come out here, or anybody comes out here to see the Golden Knights, let me know. I'd love to see you and anybody coming out this way from Baltimore. So,
well, the only thing that will get me to the strip out there in Vegas right now probably is going to be Lionel Richie or Bruno Mars for my wife. So that's what we're working on.
Those are two good ones. I don't think they're playing right now.
Nah, I'm not even down with this Aerosmith residency thing. I'm not coming out there for that. So. Hey, take care of yourself, Kev. Keep up the great work that you're doing, and
doing what you're doing. You're doing great work too. Keep doing what you're doing. You pump me up. Thank you.
There he goes, Kevin Malone. He is doing incredible work. At one point, he was just doing the toy department of evaluating baseball players for the Orioles 20 years ago and the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Montreal Expos. Now doing incredible work and running the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking. All of this came up on the backside of the Bob Kraft thing. And a big shout out and thanks to Tommy Love down at the Washington Times for doing a piece on that, making me aware of that. I love the best part about being old is stealing the great guests after other journalists get them first and getting my side of the story told. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of that. We're launching Baltimore Positive next month. We'll be telling you more about that and all of our sponsors. I am Nestor. I'm a very available individual. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Streaming live right here on our Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.